why don't we jump right into the what we're watching with the movie that I think was the talk of at least film Twitter over the weekend. I don't know if it was everybody's cup of tea, given that it ended up with a D+ cinema score, the
Ooh,
rare
baby.
D+ on cinema
I'm upset.
score.
I wanted an F.
Yeah, right.
I wanted it to go the full mother route and get the F. A whole mother F right there. Nothing. A D+. No, not even a D-, not even a D. A D+. So there's something that stuck with people. So
yeah,
at
not
least there is
everybody
that.
was disappointed. Men, the latest release from A24, as well as writer-director Alex Garland, who's previously made Ex Machina, Devs, Annihilation, wrote 28 Days Later. Really important in modern horror. This one is an unsettling, atmospheric horror movie that follows a woman on her trip to England, the English countryside, following her ex-husband's death. Art, we are going to do an after credits after this stream and talk a little bit more with our full thoughts and full spoilers on this movie. But let's just do a quick non-spoiler reaction. What did you make of Men?
Right off the bat, I'm a huge Alex Garland fan. I think he's one of the best directors that we have working today. He's in my top 10 right now at this moment. I think he's a fantastic writer, and I know that this is one of the movies that, or one of the ideas that he's had for a little bit. But out of the ones that he's directed, I think Devs is still my number one. I'm like really tied between Ex Machina. I think Annihilation beats Ex Machina just a little bit for me, but at the tail end would be this movie. This is not one that is for the faint of heart. It's not one for someone who likes a very straightforward story. It tricks you into thinking it's a very straightforward story, and it's like a really nice thriller right at the beginning, and then it really dives into what I would call just kind of like a psychological way of looking at someone's grief after a very traumatic event. I believe people should give this one the benefit of the doubt, even if it's not in theaters. I think now that you've seen it, Zeg, you can see what I mean of like, it gets a recommendation, maybe from you. I don't know yet. But it's still one where it's like, I don't know if you need to go out to the theaters to see it or if you should watch it from the comfort of your own home so that you could squirm in privacy.
Right. So if you want to compare it to the other films we've had from Alex Garland, I think the thing that I was a little bit surprised by in watching Men is that it's maybe a bit simpler than I had hoped for and simpler than a lot of the other things he's covered. You know, he's taken on some really heady ideas, some really sophisticated concepts in tackling artificial intelligence and genetic modification and all these really strange ideas. This is much simpler, much more stripped down. And I think where it succeeds is that Garland is still a really strong stylist. I think he's got a very clean aesthetic to a lot of his movies that also really works as a nice juxtaposition for a lot of the ugliness that we get to see later on in the movie. So there's just some formalistic elements that I thought were really, really strong here. As far as its plot and the central like metaphor holding it all together, I don't know if there's a whole lot of there. I did enjoy it, but it's not necessarily like the deepest Alex Garland movie, one that I feel like you got to run to the theaters to catch.
One, shout out Rob Hardy. He's been that go-to cinematographer for him. And I mean, I love me Rob Hardy, not just from his independent stuff, but even the big budget stuff. But yeah, this is that one where I felt a lot of people have been coming out saying, oh, you know everything off the trailer. What do you think of this part? I don't know. I'm still wrapping my head around that one. It's like the one where it's like, I don't know anything that happened, but everything that he said was also way overstated. But then I'm not exactly sure what certain things mean. So I'm going to go watch it again, either today or tomorrow, because I did come out of it kind of, you know, because I really like him as a director, giving him the benefit of the doubt. I really like the performances in this movie. I think that alone is worth catching because Jesse Buckley is one of the best, I believe, working right now. Kinnear, right, does an insane job playing a multitude of faces, I will say, because it is a very condensed cast. I don't think there's more than 5 people in the movie, 5 actors in the movie. But it is one where I think that there's a lot of symbolism here and there where it may not be the most profound thing, but I still think that for what he's going for, there's a nice, and we'll get to it more in the spoilers, a theme dealing with cycles. very much cycles, especially towards the end.
Yeah.
But it is one where if you're curious in any way, shape, or form, if any of his previous stuff has piqued your interest, go into this one blind. Don't get it spoiled by anybody else. It is good for you to experience the ending, even if you come out pissed off. At least you got to experience that crazy ending without any spoilers.
Yeah, I've seen some people reacting negatively to the film, and they're particularly reacting negatively to the second half of the film, and that to me is terrible. Like that's the part of the film where the real meat is. Like the Cronenbergian body horror stuff is where I really think Men is excelling. I prefer the latter half to the first half, but yeah, I still think it's still an interesting film from a director who I've consistently found to be very thought-provoking and interesting. So I've enjoyed also reading a lot of reactions to Men. So I'm excited to talk about that with you in more spoilers. But that was really the main thing that we saw in theaters this weekend.